Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
So /x/, what's the scariest thing you have ever personally encountered?
Several years ago, I was a police officer in a fairly good-sized city, roughly 350,000, on the West Coast. I worked in a very poor part of town during the graveyard shift. Over about a 3-month period, I located several human teeth on and around my vehicle. They were usually molars, but sometimes they were front teeth, unsure of the name. They were always dry, no blood, no saliva, and never had any fillings. They were always placed somewhere conspicuous. Oftentimes, I'd find them on my windshield wiper or on top of my buddy bumper, which was black so the tooth really stood out. It would happen whenever I left my car to go on a call. I'd be in a house wrapping up a domestic or a gas station getting some coffee, and when I'd return, I'd see it. Sometimes I wonder how many I didn't see. I ended up noping out after stopping a car whose tags came back no record. I approached the vehicle, a beat-up red Ford Probe, and there was an old woman behind the wheel. She spoke very softly and I could barely make out what she said. She gave me her registration, which matched the plate, so I figured it was an error on the DMV's end. I told her that everything looked okay and she could pull off. For the only time during the stop, she spoke loudly enough to hear. Her voice was grainy and sort of deep. "You" is all she said. I chalked it up to maybe I misheard her, or she misheard me or something. Anyway, cops are usually creatures of habit, a fatal flaw sometimes, and I was not the exception. I never failed to check ID because you never know who you're dealing with. I also never allowed a car to leave a stop with me standing rig. Anyway, when I turned around to walk back to my vehicle, I noticed that my driver's side spotlight had rotated downwards, so it was shining on my hood near the hinged corner of the driver's side. Lights often get loose and have to be tightened up by the motor pool guys, so no biggie. As I got closer, I saw 3 teeth in a triangle directly in the center of the beam. No one else arrived on the stop with the creepy lady, and I didn't spend any time looking around. I transferred to day shift a few months later, but I stopped working in that area. My seniority allowed me to work another beat in a nicer part of town. After moving beats and switching to days, the mysterious teeth stopped. I didn't save any, and this was in the early 2000s before the proliferation of camera phones. I've never told anyone this because I thought it was either a prank, cops always fuck with each other, or no one would believe me.
One night driving down a street I've driven down every day to and from work. One night while driving, my whole perspective on everything went, like my whole entire thought process changed to the point where it was so completely overwhelming there is no way to describe it, but I thought I was going to have a stroke or some shit. Felt a little different after driving down that street and felt a little off-put driving down that street again, so I put it off for a while. A few weeks later was late for the movies with a friend, and that street cuts a lot of travel time off, so decide to drive down it. Driving down it and holy shit, it happens again. For some reason pass out for like 5 seconds, go through an intersection, and become involved in a car crash. My car is written off and I am left blind with cuts to my right eye from the airbag for a week. Lost a lot of money for insurance and a new car and everything involving the incident. I felt a lot of growing up was done, like my whole life was in a new perspective. It's menacing thinking about that feeling in that street.
3 years ago, I was actually browsing /x/ and got hungry. Also, it was approximately 2 a.m. Now we lived above a small town shopping center, so it was kind of a bungalow on a shop, with a staircase to the door between a shop and a pub. I left for the kitchen to get a bowl of yogurt and chocolate flakes. I live in Holland, I don't know if this makes sense, and was about to walk back when the camera doorbell thing went screaming, but electric buzzy screaming. Frozen in the kitchen, I had to walk to the hallway where the goddamn thing hanged, now screaming and buzzing like crazy. Already a bit freaky from the /x/ threads that were waiting in my room, I walked to the camera doorbell machine, which showed extreme static, mixed with the normal street view. Probably a loose wire, right? Something like that. Just pull and put the plug back in. Having done just that, I picked up the bowl with yogurt and chocolate flakes, which I had put on the floor, and commenced to my room through the hallway when the screaming started again. Less electric now, but clearly from the doorbell, I was sure of that cause. Now standing in the hallway, me and the hallway lit up all blue from the small screen. I was horrified because the sound was too natural for such a machine. I nearly shat myself, and while I almost did, I realized nobody woke up, not my mother nor my little sister. The screaming buzzing was freakishly loud. I bolted, in primal fear, I was 18 at the time but acted 5, for my mother's door, slammed the door open and closed, and while closing it and asking my mother if she could see and hear all of this, there she stood. She grinned a big grin, half-lit blue with the screaming in the background, half dark because of the door I couldn't close. Split-second reaction, I dove into it, realizing this was my sister. I grabbed her by the neck. I nearly strangled her, on the bed, all the while she was laughing. My mother wakes up, asks casually what is going on. While I explain this painstakingly vague shit, the buzzing and screaming resides, and my sisters walk to the toilet. When she was done, she asked me what I was doing in Mum's room and lay next to her. Nowadays, I ask them both about the night, and they both laugh it off, especially my sister. She still thinks it was fucking funny. But when I ask her what she was doing with the house, she shyly says she doesn't know. I'm not very good at this, but I had to get it out there. It's good to share this wrong experience.
There's one moment in my past that I can think of that has always freaked me out, even to this day. It could have a reasonable explanation, but I never got one. 5 years ago, around 2 or 3 a.m., driving around town with a friend. Ask him to stop at my bank so I can pick up some cash at the ATM. My bank at that time was located across the street from the local high school. Reach the bank and begin to pull into the parking area. Headlights shine on the curb in front of us as we turn in. Sitting in front of my friend and I are 2 figures, holding each other, meeting our eyes mere moments after we discovered them, guy and girl. Both wearing clothing from a different era, Letterman's jacket being worn by the guy, and a long pink poodle dress on the girl. Their skin was completely white, looked almost bleached entirely. Dark, heavy black rings hung under their eyes. Stop the car in the parking lot. Get out to investigate. All this taking place in the span of 5 seconds. Guy and girl are nowhere to be found. Look down the streets or around the bank and find no sign of them. Not sure if it was just 2 freaky kids hanging out at an odd place in the middle of the night, or something more, but it was easily the freakiest experience I've ever heard. Really sent a cold chill down the spine. Friend doesn't like to talk about it to this day.
First time posting here. English isn't my first language, so please forgive me if I sound repetitive and my memory is not as good as it was, so some parts will be jumbled. Back in 2008, we had electricity problems and we spent several nights without it. The whole summer we would hear footsteps on our roof. They were very heavy, and based on the sound, the owner must have been wearing heavy boots or something really solid on his feet. Anyhow, this incident would occur at around 2 a.m. or maybe a bit earlier, but it's been a long time, so I cannot remember the exact details. The weirdest part is that I'd wake up a minute or 2 before this happens. It starts from far away, like someone was walking on the neighbor's roof. Then you'd hear a crash as if it jumped onto ours. You'd hear it walking around the roof as if surveying the area before eventually settling down. It was horrifying, and I'd just close my eyes and cover myself with the blankets trying to block the sound, and the thoughts of it, out. I share a room with my mom and we share the same bed, so it was slightly tolerable. It was a really scary experience, but of course it didn't stop at that. My mom then had this brilliant idea of fake coughing out loud because she thinks it will scare it off or serve as a warning that we know it's there for it to go away. As expected, we only managed to capture its interests. The next few nights it went from simply perching on our roof to walking right around our house. Now our bed is pushed against the wall, and this wall is made of wood. Basically, the inner wall is plywood, and the outer wall is made of slightly thicker wood. I was the unlucky one who happened to be sleeping right next to the wall. Not content with just walking around, our mysterious trespasser started to loiter on the other side of my wall. Every fucking night he'd breathe or rasp, and it felt like he was right next to my ear because it sounded so close. Why am I sure it was a he? Well, it sounded like a man trying to catch his breath after a long run, except he's doing it very slowly, not rapid like most people do. It sounded almost perverse, like, ha, fa. My mom got so sick and tired of this that she called a community patrol on this. Thinking about it now, she must have been trying to convince herself that it was a human. Anyway, the patrol arrived and they climbed the roof and found nothing. At that point, some of the guys from that patrol started joking about supernatural things. One of them, the oldest in the group, then told us in a deadpan tone, "You're all looking for a tall man, but you can't find anything. Have you tried looking for something smaller, like 5 inches or 8 perhaps?" He hinted it could have been a dwarf playing tricks on us. Now a quick background on our house. It was built around 40 years ago, and our neighborhood's location was used as a Japanese camp during World War II, and it was rumored that it was a mass burial site for prisoners that they captured during the war. There's a lot of creepy things happening in our neighbors' houses too. But that's a different story. After they all left, the footsteps started again, and this time my mom tried her best to ignore it. Additional info that might help you guys to understand the story better. I live with my mom and younger brother in a single-story house with 2 bedrooms. My brother has his own room, and I obviously share the other one with my mom. My brother always gets home late, and would often go home at 5 a.m. or so just to avoid that trespasser, because that scares the shit out of him. One night he got home late, around 2 or 3 a.m. or something, and he was drunk. After he got in, the footsteps started on the roof. Feeling brave, he yelled at it to make it stop. It did stop, but something felt really off about it. It became so quiet that I almost wished the footsteps would start again. There was a whoosh sound. Then I heard the all-too-familiar rasping breathing, then it stopped. Out of nowhere, there was banging on our outside walls. It was as if a lot of people encircled our house and started banging on the walls with their hands at the same time. Our house is medium-sized, so you'd need almost 100 people to encircle it in order to achieve that effect. It was beyond terrifying. I seriously thought our walls would give out and that trespasser would come in and attack us directly. Then it stopped. Not a gradual stop, but a sudden one, just like how it started. My knees are shaking slightly as I'm typing this right now, and my hands feel weak and shaky as well. The next night, the footsteps returned, and my mom started praying loudly and was practically shouting, "In Jesus' name, leave." Then from our roof, the trespasser fell, and we heard a groan, then sounds of someone hurriedly walking away, and then it opened our gate to go outside. We didn't dare to look. It was a frightening experience, and we were scared shitless, so we couldn't bear to look out. The next day, we felt brave enough to check on the roof. My uncle came by with a ladder and saw pieces of fruit skin neatly piled up. It was as if someone was using the roof like you would use a bench or a picnic table. Clearly, the one who was hanging out there was some intelligent life form and not some stray animal. We doubt it was human, though, because of the house banging incident and the fact that it could teleport to the ground from the rooftop. There is a possibility of wings, too, but I don't think I should dwell on it anymore. The trespasser didn't come back that summer or the year after that, but from time to time we'd hear footsteps on our roof, only this time they're softer and less menacing. It rarely happens now, and we've learned to live with it, but we will never forget that summer.
It may be some Japanese death demon soul guardish creature. This day and age recording is very easy. Think about it.
Unlikely. I had a friend who suggested that it might have been a house spirit who was kicked out due to changes in the feng shui arrangement in our house. Come to think of it, we did change our furniture arrangements in the house. It could have been like that, and it was trying to come back in. Although that doesn't explain the recent visits on our roof. An ex-boyfriend of Mom who claimed to have a third eye and more knowledge with the paranormal, his grandmother was a witch doctor in their province, said that the rasping voice I heard could have been a house element or spirit who was trying to keep that intruder out, hence the labored breathing. Either way, it's still creepy, and the real reason is still unknown.
And what about recording? Can you take some pictures? This could be very interesting with some more investigation.
It rarely happens nowadays, and it's not a good idea to leave anything on a roof. Birds or bats can take it away. As for recording, it's unlikely I'll catch something. On the rare occasions those visits happen, I doubt I'll have the initiative to record, and since the footsteps are now so soft, the recorder won't be able to pick them up. There was this incident while I was in the living room, though. I was Skyping with a friend at 5 a.m., give or take, when a woman's voice said hello from behind me. Needless to say, there was no one there, and I ran into the room, leaving my Skype call on.
Pity? Any more happenings in the house?
Not so much to me. When I was younger, I could hear furniture being dragged around as if being rearranged around 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. This happened to my brother last March, though. It was really late when he decided to come home after a party. He was walking in our neighborhood all alone around 2 a.m. He was less than 10 minutes walking distance from our house when he noticed a girl walking 12 to 15 meters behind him. He had drunk a little and needed to pee, so he walked a bit slower to let the girl pass him by. At this point, he really needed to pee, so he did the deed at a nearby pole. It was when he noticed that the girl didn't pass him by and she was gone from view. She couldn't possibly have gone into any of the houses around because he knew all of our neighbors and she sure as hell didn't look like one of them, and aside from that, he didn't hear a gate open. All of the houses in our neighborhood are gated, all of which are metal or iron. He had a bad feeling about this and decided to hurry back home, half running. I was awake at this time and was chatting with my friend on Skype. I let my brother in and he went straight to his room. About 10, maybe 15 minutes later, I heard him screaming my name. He was shaking and half shouting at me when I entered, and he quickly pushed me and went out. He said that someone peeked into his window. He then told me and my mom about the incident with the girl and how he believed it was connected to that peeping Tom. It was super creepy because, like I mentioned earlier, all of the houses in the neighborhood had tall metal gates, and that includes ours. We have a tall wall and tall gate, so there was no way she could have gotten in without being detected. There are more stories from around my neighborhood. It would no longer be my personal experience, but a second-hand recounting. Just tell me if you want to hear about it.
It kinda derails the subject of the thread, but I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, this will be the last one I am posting. I need sleep, and it's 5 a.m. here in Finland, so I need sleep. In case you are confused about the World War II reference and Japanese camp thing. I am not a Finn, and I am just here on a vacation. The setting in my previous stories were in the Philippines. Anyhow, here's the story. The house that I've mentioned in my previous stories is the one where my mom grew up in. When my mom was a teenager, there were rumors in the neighborhood about a singing specter that appears late at night. It was said that the specter was a woman who would sing a Spanish love song for her lover who was lost during the early wars. One night, some of my mom's childhood friends decided to record the specter's song. It was successfully captured in audio, and then some of the people in the neighborhood listened to it. The specter never reappeared after that, but those who have heard the recording have reported a strange presence in their houses. My mom's friends then destroyed the tape, and the presence finally went away. They never heard or saw the singing specter again.
What just happened to me? I was riding my bike by my old middle school, coming off a path from the school. I was on a side street. It's night, and I live in a suburb where shit tends to get creepy. Well, as I'm riding, I start to get an overwhelming feeling that something is watching me, assuming it's a cop. I do a quick 360 scan of my surroundings, and just before I look back to the road, I see a human-like gray form staring directly at me from the side of a house, only about 3 or 4 feet tall. It couldn't have been a child or a little person. The ratio and build of the body was that of a grown man, just shrunk. As I stared at it, it was almost as right as I transmitted that what I was seeing was not human, that it noticed I was staring and it took off behind the house. I became overwhelmed with fear and immediately started tearing up and hauling ass down the street to the brightly lit main street. I assumed there were more, and they were following me. Having a panic, asthma, anxiety, what the fuck attack. I called my girlfriend and tried to explain to her. I'm currently still freaked out about it, as it was only about an hour ago, and I'm sleeping at my friend's house because I'm too afraid to ride my bike home tonight. I've had an irrational fear of gnomes ever since I was little, but have never had a real-life experience with such a thing. Go where I did not see a tall, pointy hat in what was spying on me. Has anyone ever experienced something similar to this? Please, I'm questioning what little sanity I have left.
So first time posting on 4chan ever. Saw this thread and I figured I'd share some stories. Got some freaky things that happened to me and my family. But this one, I still get scared thinking about it. It was about a month or two before I enlisted in the Navy. I had just moved up to Idaho with my mother to finish my senior year of high school, living in a brand new apartment complex. Our apartment had 3 bedrooms. Down a long hall was mine on the left, my mother's on the right, and my brother's at the end. Well, one night, I wake up and it looked to be about 5 in the morning. The sun was barely coming up, but it's grey and grainy, and I can't move. My bed was against the wall, and my back was to the wall, which is weird because I never slept like that. Next thing I know, there is this grey hand that shoots up from the edge of the bed and grabs my sheets and starts pulling the rest of the thing up. The closest I can describe what came up after it was something that looked like the television girl from the movie The Ring. She kept coming closer to me, and I screamed. Next thing I know, everything goes back to normal. She disappears, and my mom is at my bedroom door asking what's wrong and what happened. It took me 4 days to tell her what I saw. Also, when I was about 5, I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and we lived in this old house. Well, we were in the process of updating the kitchen and had a giant mirror laying up against the wall. Forgot where it eventually went. And I saw something that petrified me for a good 2 minutes. In the mirror, I saw a woman with blood running from her eyes and a rope noose around her neck staring back at me. By the time I got the courage to move, I ran back to my bedroom and covered myself up and stayed up the rest of the night till morning. Another family story. This one did not happen to me personally, but to my brother. We will call him A. When A was younger, we lived in an old farmhouse. The land around it was all bought up and a subdivision was built, but the house still stood. And it was a piece of shit house. Shit always breaking. Anyways, I liked to stay up late as a kid and watch Cartoon Network. We had a couch, a love seat, and a rocking chair in the living room. Always hated that rocking chair. Well, anyways, one night he comes into my parents' bedroom, claiming that there is a man dressed as a farmer. He described him as wearing overalls, boots, and a straw hat, sitting on the rocking chair, rocking it back and forth, who keeps smiling at him. My stepdad got up to see what was going on and why there was an intruder in the house who had yet to meet his shotgun. Went into the living room to see nothing but the TV playing and the rocking chair rocking without anyone in it, and my brother's blanket still left on the couch where he had left it.
Freshman in college working in the IT lab. Had to stay until closing time every night, which meant waiting for the security guard to lock up the room. Had heard stories of a certain classroom that a teacher had hung himself in and was haunted. Became buddies with the security guard over the course of the semester. We both were obsessed with Counter-Strike at the time. One day had finally asked him if he ever had any weird experiences in that room. He got super uncomfortable at the question, but eventually came around to telling me about one incident he had a couple of years back. He was doing his nightly check of every classroom in the building to make sure everyone was out before lockup. Got to the haunted room to see a man sitting at one of the desks in the back of the room reading a book. Was a little surprised to see someone there that late at first, but finally said, "Gotta pack it up, Professor. Building's closing in 5. No response from the man. The guard turned around for a minute to shut off the light in the classroom across from the haunted room. Turned back around, and the man was gone. Said he looked around the room and didn't see any evidence of the man being there. Impossible for anyone to have left without making a sound or getting down the hall at that speed. The building was old and had super creaky wood floors. Noped outside and locked up. Had to take a couple of days off work to figure out WTF happened. Still hate going in that building alone now. Not sure if he was bullshitting me or not, but still a little spooky nonetheless."
For reference, I live in a little town in Ireland that used to house the 3rd largest gunpowder mills in the British Isles. Because the forest where it was built is next to the River Lee, the builders constructed canals to transport the gunpowder because transporting it by horse and cart was too dangerous because of sparks, etc. The mills opened in 1792, I think. To protect them, A barracks was built in the village. The barracks is gone, has been converted into a shopping centre, doctor's practice, old folks' home, etc. But the ruins of the gunpowder mills are still in the park, and they give the park an eerie feel at night. In addition to that, there have been several heroes and murders in the park. TLDR, old-ass gunpowder mill ruins in park 5 minutes from my house, and a lot of crimes committed there through the centuries. Be 3 or 4 years ago. Me and a few friends decide to bring a Ouija board into the park one night in October. Not Halloween, too mainstream for us edgy fuckers. 3 guys, let's call them Ben, Dave and Tom, and 2 girls, myself and another girl we'll call Eve, go into a building that was probably a storage area for the gunpowder, and as of late reputed to be a bit of a drug den, although it was deserted when we arrived. Dave sets down the board. Eve and Tom seem nervous, and Ben and myself are laughing and spooking them, but I feel a bit anxious. We start, messing around with the board, stupid questions, who likes who? We were trying to set up Eve and Ben at the time. We must go deeper. .jpeg, Dave, self-proclaimed DM at this stage, asks if there is anyone with us who met a violent end. Nothing happens, as expected, but Tom is practically sweating. Dave asks if there is anyone with us who used to work at the mills. I swear the glass twitches. Someone's hand could have spasmed, I don't know. And Tom yelps and pulls back his hand, wants to leave, etc. We call him a coward and keep going. Dave is just about to ask another stupid question when we hear a rustle from outside. No animals in the park, really. There are too many people coming and going, and it doesn't sound like a bird either. Ben goes to check it out, comes back shrugging his shoulders. Note, we were all watching him, and when he comes back, we all turn back to the board. The glass, which had been near the bottom of the board, was now on yes. I say, nice try, Tom, but we're not leaving. Tom is white as a sheet and swears he didn't do it, very likely. Eve is now asking too if we can leave, looks pretty spooked. Dave sighs and says, okay, packs up the Ouija board, and we start to walk towards the gate, which stays open 24/7. On the way to the gate, we pass the canal that the girl who was murdered was found in. Eve kind of cuddles into Ben's arm, who looks predictably chuffed, but I notice it's a bit colder outside the round building, which makes no sense because the roof collapsed years ago. Dave presumably has the same thought because he starts walking a bit faster, as do I and Tom. As we are just about to walk past the canal, we hear the water break on the surface, not very loudly, but loud enough to send us running at warp speed towards the gate. I look back and think I see something shimmering at the bank of the canal. We don't stop running until we get to the pub up the road. Dave, did you fucking see that? No, what? Tom pipes up, I saw it, anon, Jesus Christ. Never go back there past sunset again. Try to avoid that fucking canal if I'm ever walking through during the day. It was some scary shit, /x/files. It doesn't matter if it was some idiot trying to prank us. It left me shaken.
Be me, age 9. My friend has a Sega, and I go play with him every evening. It's 9:30 p.m. when I get ready to go home. Right as I'm about to leave, the power goes out. Turns out it's the entire neighborhood, so what is normally a casual stroll to my home, which is just 1 block away, turns into a too spooky for 9-year-old me. Head home, which normally means I'll pass a few houses, take a turn to the right, with a pub on the corner, and see some more houses before reaching mine. As I get to the corner, I see the pub is closed, even though it was still open when I went to my friend 3 hours ago. All of a sudden, I get that creepy shiver when you know someone is watching you. Turn around, can barely see a shadow in the distance. As I stare at it, I feel myself getting scared, and as I start to walk again, it all of a sudden bolts towards me. Nope. .jpeg, run to my home. But this thing is right behind me, at like Sonic, gotta go fast speed. Can actually feel the cold surrounding me, and I swear it's breathing down my neck. Make it to my home, bolt right through my back door. Parents are still awake and trying to wait for the power to come back on. They ask me what's wrong. and I tell them as I start to cry when the adrenaline dies down. Parents just think I made it up, but I know for sure that there was something running after me. Till this day, I have no clue what it was. Was it just someone trying to spook a little kid? Was it some Minecraft YouTuber trying to grab me? Or was it a real shadow being trying to snatch me? Whatever it is, it's made me afraid of the dark even now. And I'm freaking 28 now.
Many years ago, B-15 in the deep woods of Kovalevsky with my friend Uri and his papa, camping for many nights in a bad place of history. On the third night, we were sitting by the fire, drinking and eating rations, while Uri's papa told us a story of escape in wartime. He tells us a story of one night of enemy soldiers looking for people and having to hide in the deep brush of a burned-down clearing. His papa describes him and his friends hearing footsteps and thinking they had been spotted. The footsteps intensify in their stepping and grow deeper than a person should sound. A being of light skims past the brush. Looks like a tall man, but with no need for him to touch the ground, sort of hover skimming. Enemy soldiers descend on the area. Shout something his papa and friends couldn't understand. Begin firing rifles at the being. No effect is to be had. The creature grows brighter in intensity as he approaches the soldiers, passing over them as they howl. The creature disappears into the night. Most soldiers chase after. A few left behind are screaming. Papa and friends gaze upon a man covered in burns from head to toe. Uri's papa says the man's dying words to them were Czerwienia smrt opekatain ubod. Red death burns sting. I know not if his papa's story is real. I know though many bad things happen in those woods, many things happen there to people beside Uri's papa.
Earlier this year, my friend and I are helping my boyfriend move, so we're spending the night at his place. There's an abandoned nature trail behind a school near his house we call Hobo Narina. It's near midnight. Bored as hell. Ask my boyfriend about Hobo Narnia. My friend asks what it is, and we tell him. He wants to go. It's late, but we say fuck it, grab a couple of knives from the kitchen and a flashlight, and head out. Get to the entrance, the flashlight hits something, and we jump. Turns out to be a possum, either dead or playing dead. We decide not to go any further because dead animals usually mean bad business. As we start leaving, I look back to see if the possum will run away. Notice a guy, grey hoodie, hands in pockets, hood up, head down. He's following us. Notify my friend and boyfriend. We start noping to the end of the street, looking back every now and then, and he's still following us. Get to the end of the street. Look back again. The fucker is gone. The street, from the road to the entrance of Hobo Narnia, if you're on the right side, had houses all along the left and nothing on the right but another street with nothing on it that just serves as a turnaround since it's a dead end. Further up there are other streets, but he was past those other streets when we saw him. He couldn't have turned down the other street. We would have seen him starting to walk down it. It was a clear dead-end street anyway, so there was no need for him to go down it. He couldn't have gone into the house. We looked at him frequently, and he was kind of close to us. He was on the right side of the street, and unless he ran, he couldn't have gotten to his house within the 2 minutes it took to look at him and get to the end of the street. We would have heard him run anyway if he did. We don't know whether he was a serial killer or a ghost, but we spent the night afraid he was going to find his way to the house.
Senior in high school. The night is winding down, some people are leaving. Finish off a Heineken, I don't drink much, so fuck it. See my girlfriend at the time leaving the party with a few friends. Decide it'd be a good idea to run ahead on a different path and hide in a bush to spook them. Bolt ahead, running Naruto style. Arms behind my back, body low to the ground to decrease air resistance. Get to a spot a bit further from where the two paths meet up, probably about 2 in the morning, cold even though it's summer because of Canada. Eventually I hear a small group of people coming up the path, get my best spooky face on, jump out screaming. I don't even notice that it's not them for the first 10 seconds, it's 3 somewhat older guys. 2 of them have knives out, pointed at me. I don't know what to say, afraid I'm about to be stabbed. You aren't my girlfriend. I ran away full speed down the path with shitty lighting until I got home. I pissed myself on the way back and cried at my house. I don't know how I got invited to parties and had a girlfriend when I was such a beta back then.
Exploring some abandoned hospital in my local area, with my sister and her 2 friends. We went in during the daytime, so the upstairs wasn't as spoopy as I'd hoped. We begin getting into an area with little to no windows equals dark spoops. Kind of cool, but not good enough. Go into the basement, completely dark, so everyone takes out their phones to use the flashlight. Except me, because mine doesn't have a working one. Having a good time going through the old stuff and reading the old documents and stuff that was left behind. Go farther down into the boiler room area, using my phone to take pictures. See one room in particular that was completely empty, so I want to take a picture of that. Suddenly, the screen goes black even though the flash is still on. It does this for a couple of seconds until the flash turns off. The screen does this weird thing that looks similar to what a TV screen would do, with the colors set in rows or lines going down. Phone shuts off and won't go back on. A couple of minutes later, I tried again, and it worked. Battery at 32%. Look in the gallery to see if the picture came out. Absolutely nothing.
Be me, 18, still living at my parents' house. Have an intense fear of burglars and general anxiety. Lying in bed awake, maybe 1 in the morning, hear a loud truck drive by. The truck slows down, turns, starts coming back up to pass the house again, but then stops. I'm already getting anxious listening to this truck that might be stopped outside of my house. Suddenly I hear a noise outside. The front door bursts open and I almost piss my pants, blood running cold. The dog is barking and then suddenly stops. I hear footsteps in the kitchen. Somebody is slowly walking up the stairs. I'm frozen in fear. The person walks down the hall to my parents' room, the second to last room in the hall. Mine is the last at the very end. The door very slowly creaks open, and I have images of a masked murderer silently assassinating my parents. After a few minutes, the door slowly closes. This is it. I'm fucked. Wait 10 or 15 minutes, nothing happens. Get up about half an hour later and scan the house clutching a pair of scissors. Nobody is dead. I'm confused. Turns out a repo guy showed up in the middle of the night and was snooping around the yard looking for my aunt's car. My dad was still awake downstairs and he thought somebody was stealing shit, so he threw the door open and ran outside, screamed at the guy, told him to get the fuck off the property, and then came back in, came upstairs and woke my mom up to tell her what happened. Meanwhile, I was lying in bed peeing my pants.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.